German Chancellor Angela Merkel is dealing with some unwanted dissent within her party, just hours after she gave an impassioned speech in the Bundestag urging togetherness over division. Two high-ranking members of her party made controversial comments on immigration and gay marriage. So first off, leadership hopeful Friedrich Merz, this is what he said.
Ich bin schon seit langer Zeit der Meinung, dass wir bereit sein müssten, über dieses Asylgrundrecht offen zu reden, ob es in dieser Form fortbestehen kann, wenn wir ernsthaft eine europäische Einwanderungs- und Flüchtlingspolitik wollen. Wahlkampfzeiten sind wahrscheinlich für eine solche Debatte ungeeignet. Aber wir müssen irgendwann auch einmal eine große öffentliche Diskussion über die Frage führen, wenn wir denn eine Lösung in Europa wollen.
Well, it did not stop there. The education minister is under fire for comments on gay marriage. Anja Karliczek questioned whether legalization was rushed, and she said the effect of two same-sex parents on children was unknown. Well, speaking to German news channel NTV, she said, "I think the way we did it was not right. As long as children are being bullied and discriminated against in schools or in any way, as long as we have a problem." All right. Joining us to talk about this, we have again Brian McGuire, reporter with Euractiv, our political editor, Darren McCaffrey, still with us is the Daily Telegraph's Brussels correspondent, James Crisp. All right, what is going on in Germany? You were chuckling when you were hearing.
Well, I loved the way the first guy said, you know, now isn't really the time to talk about this. It wouldn't be helpful before going on to talk about it. I mean, I'm not sure, you know, German's a fantastic language. I'm sure that they've already got a verb, a compound long verb, which means to slowly mimic Trump in a bid to soak up a few extra votes because your leader is tottering.
But is that what's happening? Is this the reflection of rhetoric? That
it is complete rhetoric, because both of these situations are things which are established in law which can't be changed.
Exactly.
And the first guy, Merz, he's talking about changing something which is in the basic law, but not just in the basic law. It has what's called an eternity clause. You have to change the whole constitution and not just this one bit. He can't deliver that. And also on the same-sex parenting as well, it's 0.1% of German families have underage children with same-sex parents. That is not of great consequence to most of the German electorate. This is all about positioning for new jobs in the next cabinet.
I think what's interesting is a reminder of how much immigration is still a massive issue in Germany and continues to taint the CDU. And it is something that the party feels they need to get to grips with. But also, and this seems a bit weird because, you know, we're from the UK or Ireland and elsewhere in Europe where kind of religion doesn't play a part in the national narrative. I'm not saying it doesn't.
Ireland?
No, but as in like party political-wise, it doesn't. Like leaders don't need to pretend to be Christian if they are or they aren't. What was that famous thing that Alistair Campbell once said? We don't do religion. Whereas when I was at the EPP conference in Helsinki a few weeks ago, when Manfred Weber stood up, of course the CDU is part of the EPP, he's from the CSU, but the biggest round of applause was when he talked about Christian heritage in Europe. Right. When he talked about how the fact that every village, town and city had a church. I mean, there was almost a standing ovation.
It was in his video as well.
And there is a Christian vote. I'm saying there's a Christian constituency that clearly the CDU appeal to.
Yes, but the Christian thing to do would be to take in refugees and help them. I mean, that is what Jesus would do. Jesus would probably also not have a problem. Well, on the gay adoption, I'm not sure, but Jesus ever said anything to do with it.
This is important,
I'm pretty sure he wouldn't have an issue with
for salvation. You can't. We don't want to be in a theocracy. This is a democracy.
So is all of this a moot point? Because as you say, it can't be changed.
It's an insight. It's an insight into the fact that there are constituencies in Germany on these two very issues. It's clearly a leadership campaign.
It's two chances on the make.
I think that's pretty accurate.
Two chances on the make, but then politics, you know, you've got members of the centrist, supposedly centrist party towing lines that are normally given to the far right.
Well, they're not. First of all, we learned from the Bavarian election, mimicking the far right costs you votes, doesn't gain you votes.
Right.
And the German electorate is broadly sensitive to that as well. So this is, I think, an internal party positioning. Like we just said, it's not going to have any real impact on overall policy. It will show some sympathy and will receive some sympathy from Hungary and places like that. But will this change German policy?
I think we should move away. We shouldn't say this is the far right.
No.
First of all, Germany is the only country in the world to have this law on asylum seekers. And second of all, you know, I'd say it is not just the far right that might have concerns about gay adoption. That is something that
That's correct.
is found in wide spheres of the electorate in lots of other countries.
I mean, one thing I just want to say about Germany, and this is an unpopular point of view, especially at the moment, but I think Germany demands huge sort of respect and gratitude from the rest of Europe for actually taking in 1 million refugees and asylum seekers. You know, they took that onto that burden, if you like, you know, you could argue that once they're integrated, once they're working, it'll actually be a boon to the society. But, you know, they took that on. And I think that was actually a brave move by Angela Merkel, the right moral choice. And it's probably...
I was just going to say, in this discussion, we hardly mentioned Angela Merkel.
Yeah,
actually.
Merkel, she was speaking just before these comments were made about the United Nations Migration Pact as well, a global arrangement for how we deal with migration. But her parties bring this back down to a very parochial level as well. And also, we just mentioned morality of this. You know, as Darren said, the religious element of this, there is a strong pattern across the whole of Europe. And when we speak about being tolerant as well, there has to be a tolerance on the other side. And I think this is going to be something the right to speak up within Germany. And both of these issues, I have a right to speak about migration if you don't like it. I have a right to speak about these other issues if you don't like it as well. That could be the more serious current.
What's interesting is if we continue to see rhetoric like this coming from Germany.